In this video, I'm going to be answering the question, is it possible for me to pay my tuition working part-time jobs in Canada? Many people have asked me this question. Is it possible if I have the money to pay for my first semester tuition, is it possible for me to raise money doing part-time jobs to pay for the other tuition? And some people have ever asked me, is it possible to just come to Canada and work and pay all of your tuition? So in this video, I'm going to be giving a hypothetical example and then just do some permutations and combination to see how much you can make just doing some part-time job, and then see how either I can cover your tuition or not. Before now, international students are allowed to work only 20 hours per week, which means that if you work more than 20 hours, you are actually violating your study permit conditions, which means that if you want to extend or something, you might run into problems in the future. So it is best to stay within those 20 hours. But sometime in 2022, there was actually a policy that came out, but this policy is not actually for everybody. So I'm just going to explain. So from November 15th to 2022 until December 31st 2023, you can now work more than 20 hours off campus while class is in section. So this is not for everybody. There are certain conditions that must be required. Number one, if you're currently, as at the time the announcement was made, if you're currently having a study permit and you study full-time in a designated learning institution, then either full-time or part-time, you are eligible. If you have a study permit approved at that time and you are yet to arrive in Canada, you are also eligible. In order to those requirements, there were other things that are included, about 3 conditions that should be met. All of them. Number one, you must have received, they must have received your application by on or before October 7, 2022, which means that if you applied before October 7, 2022, you can actually apply. If you're coming to Canada now, it means that you can actually work more than 40 hours, more than 20 hours per week. But if you're just applying in, let's say, January 2023, and then you're coming to Canada, later in the year in 2023 or thereabout before the end of December, you are not part. You can't work more than 20 hours per week, and then you must have an off-campus authorization to work on your study permit, which is not everybody that they're able to work with their study permit. It's going to be explicitly stated that on your study permit you can actually work on off campus, so that should be on your study permit. And then you must either you must be either in Canada or coming to Canada by December 31st 2023, which means that if you're thinking about 2024 as of now, that doesn't apply to you. I don't know if it's going to change later on, but that is what we have at this moment. Now, some agents will tell you, maybe some agents that help you to apply for either your bachelor's or your master's, will tell you, just go to Canada. When you get there, you work and pay your tuition, and then they do all of the necessary arrangements back in your country, and then you get here and you're stranded. So I want to share with you, because I'm here, I'm doing my PhD here, so I'm in the best position to explain this thing to you and also share with you my own side of the story and the reality. Okay, so this is only going to be applicable to those that are doing course-based master's or PhD program, or those that are doing bachelor's, because if you're doing research-based masters or you're doing a PhD, most of the time those research programs have either partial or full funding. So in this scenario, it is a situation where there is no funding, right? So think about it that way. Let's get started now. Whether you can pay your tuition or not as an international student in Canada by yourself depends on different factors. I'm going to be mentioning them one after the other, and I will try as much as possible to elaborate each of them. Number one, are you coming with anything at all? If you're coming, let's say, with $500, and somebody else is coming with $5,000 or $10,000, both of you are already on different on different directions, right? Another thing is, when you were coming, did you pay your first semester tuition before coming to Canada? So if you paid your first semester tuition, you're still going to be very different from someone that have not paid their first semester tuition. Is that clear? Okay. Another third thing to consider is how much is your tuition. You're not going to consider someone whose yearly tuition is 5,000 Canadian dollars and the person was able to pay their tuition by themselves, and now you're coming up with a course that is $25,000 to $30,000 and you think you're still going to do that, you're able to do the same. It doesn't work that way. And then another question to consider is how much the particular province that you're coming to study, how much is their minimum wage? And if, for example, you get a job working on minimum wage, how much can you make? I'm going to be giving you, like, practical example and practical steps, and you can decide for yourself if that is possible. Okay, when I'm doing this video, Alberta's minimum wage is $15, right? If you go to like provinces like maybe Newfoundland, maybe like 11 point something, some other province 12 point something, some 14, as the case may be. Let's just assume, okay, let's try to even raise the bar up a little bit. Let's say you were able to get a job beyond minimum wage. Let's say you're able to get a $17 job. Okay, you ready? To this, let's assume you're working on the $17 job and you are working 20 hours per week. That is the maximum you can work as a student, right? So if you're working 40 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and you are making $17, just to make sure I double check with my calculator, that is going to be 340 Canadian dollars a week. Okay, this is if you got your full hours. Mind you, there are sometimes even that 20 hours you might end up getting 16, 12, 8, as the case may be. So it's not every time. Let's assume all things being equal and you are able to get that $15 all through that week, okay? And $17, and then you got 20 hours. That's like 340. Now 340 times 4, okay? If you multiply 340 times 4, in a month you're going to be making 1,340. Now, considering the fact that the semester is about 4 months, let's assume you're able to work 20 hours per week for every week for the whole 4 months. Okay, for 4 months, let's say times 4, that is going to be 5,440 Canadian dollars for that 4 months. Okay, and in Canada there is a lot of taxes that you have to pay. Okay, so if you make $5,440 as your as your gross pay, your take home is going to be less than that. Let's assume you have to pay taxes because they deduct taxes from the money you make, and let's assume the tax is at 15%. Let's just round up into that. Different provinces have their own taxes, and the federal government as well. Let's say 15%. Okay, let's say 15%. So 15% of 5,440 that I'm going to make in 4 months is going to be $816. Okay, so you're going to pay $860 in taxes out of the whole $5,440, and what you'll be left with is 4,724 Canadian dollars for that 4 months. That's around 1,181 Canadian dollars per month. Okay, now let's do some calculations and see in terms of expenses. Okay, I'll do the expenses, the kind of a rough estimate of the expenses, and then I'll multiply that by 4 just to give you an idea. Let's assume you are going to pay rent, and depends on the place where you are, some rents are very expensive, some are less. If you decide to go and choose the $2,000 per month, $1,000 per month accommodation, then your money is already gone. Okay, so you can imagine that. Let's assume, okay, let's say you got, let's say $500. I mean, this depends on the province. When I was in Newfoundland during my master's, as at 2017 to 2019, I was paying 450 Canadian dollars per year. Sorry, what am I saying? Sorry, 450 Canadian dollars per month. Okay, and that was because I was in the basement, right? For those that were in the upper floor of that same house, some of them were paying close to, maybe 500. So let me just use 500, because when I was in my former house in Alberta here, for a single room, I was paying $550 all inclusive. Okay, all inclusive, all utilities included. Let's assume you got a house $600. Let's just assume $600. So $600 times 4. Okay, let's just say you pay $600 for your rent, and then for food, let's say you are a conservative person, you don't eat as much, and let's assume you spend $150 per month for grocery, and then you have to pay your phone bill, right? So here you have to pay your phone bills, right? If you are coming without a phone and you need to get a phone and a SIM card, is even more expensive. Let's assume you got a phone and a SIM card, okay, and you're paying $50 per month. When I came in Newfoundland, I was paying 65 Canadian dollars per month for my phone bill and my internet. That is my phone internet, right? So the internet of the house was included in the rent. Okay, let's assume $50. Okay, and then let's say you need to do your transportation, and let's say you are buying the bus pass, and let's just be conservative and say $50 per month. That's how much you're spending. And okay, let's assume your light bill is included in your rent. So let's leave light bill, and let's say miscellaneous, you need to eat out, you need to do some other things, and things that are not recorded, right? So that is going to be $950 per month. Okay, if you multiply that by 4, that is going to give you 3,800 Canadian dollars that you'll be spending in that 4 months. Are you getting me? Is this mathematics so confusing? I'm not using quadratic equation or Laplace equation or all these big mathematical equations. It's just a very simple mathematics. See, I'm using my phone as my calculator. Okay, so it should be pretty easy for you to understand. Okay, so 3,800, and let's subtract remember how much we said you're going to make for 4 months working $17 per week, per hour, for 20 hours per week, every week 20 hours, and then let's say minus 4,724, you will be left with $924. So at the end of the 4 months, you are going to be left with $924. Let's assume we divide that by 4, which means at the end of the month, you're going to be left with $231. So what does that tell you? That whatever money you've even made, okay, I've not even talked about tuition now, is just money covering your living expenses, rent, the accommodation. Rent is the same thing, accommodation. Your rent, your phone bill, your transportation and miscellaneous, everything. And at the end of the day, you're left with $231 per month. So tell me, is this okay? Let's assume at the end of the 4 months you are left with $924. Is that how much are you going to use to pay your tuition? I guess no. So whatever I have said now is a hypothetical normal situation. You are a full-time student, you're working only 20 hours per week, every week for 4 weeks. I tell you, it will not be enough. But there are some other things that you can do. Okay, there's some other things that you can do. It's called some other side hustles, you know, that you can do to really improve and increase the amount of money that you can make. Especially some of those jobs that are, you know, it's still part-time but not necessarily counting by hours per se. For example, if you're doing Uber, all right, you can do Uber and then maybe work at night, you know, and you know, work a couple of hours at night after your part-time job, you know, work a couple of hours, and then you can also do taxi. I know a lot of people that have done that in the past and it really worked for them because you can make a lot of money from it. You know, one thing I will always tell people is when you come here, just have to humble yourself, you know, even though you're a manager in your former place. When you come here in the first few months, you know, you just got to try to humble yourself and you just have to survive, because here you cannot beg landlord. At the end of the month, you know, the landlord is coming and you say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the money. Can they come back next week? No, it doesn't work that way, okay? You have to pay them their money, okay? You can do taxi, you can do Uber, you can do skip the dishes. You know, skip the dishes is basically, and to do skip the dishes, you have to get your own car, right? To do Uber, you need to have your own car technically, right? Except for taxi, you know, if you register with a company, you know, you can have their taxi to drive, okay? So let's move on now. And then maybe you're also doing some online jobs as well. You know, you have a store on Amazon, eBay, you know, you're doing some drop shipping and some other things. And then you are doing some online coaching like I'm doing now. This is my side hustle, right? I do YouTube as a student, you know. I haven't been monetized as of now because I'm still at 2,150 something subscribers at when I'm doing this video, and about 3,600 watch hours. So I need you to watch my videos more so that I'll be able to get more watch hours and get monetized, okay? And then people also do some kind of currency business, right? Maybe they have Naira and somebody want to buy Canadian dollars, you know, they send Naira to the person, you know, they collect the Canadian dollars or collect Canadian dollars and send Naira, right? They do that. People also make money, for a little bit of money from that, you know. Now, here's the catch, okay? Here's the catch. I know I've talked about the impossibility. Here's the catch of the possibility, you know, after doing all the normal 20 hours per week, and you add this other side also, taxi, you know, skip the dishes, Uber and all that. One of the biggest and most precious way that you can make a lot of money is during the summer. And this is also depends on your program. If you don't have to take class in the summer, I beg you, don't take. As an international student doing a course-based program, because that is the time that you'll be able to work full-time. Okay, you can work full-time because you are not in classes, right? Even though you are still a student, but don't register for classes because you need to register for some certain number of unit of courses to be considered as a full-time student. Okay, you are still a student, but not, you know, like you're not taking classes, right? Now, whatever we have made, okay, whatever we made from our calculation, the 4,724 that we said we're going to make in 1 month working 20 hours per week, you know, if you multiply that by 2, you'll be having around almost $9,500 for the summer. So that $9,500 is just working strictly on the 20 hours per week. So if you now add some other side also, Uber, tax, keep the dishes, you know, and you know, you save more money, it might be possible, okay? But here's an advice for you, one final advice. At least for the first semester, make sure you have the money available, okay? Make sure you have the money to pay your first semester available, because when you come, you're not going to tell your landlord, give me 2 weeks or one month to work to raise the money to pay you. No. At least have the first semester tuition ready, okay? So that by the time you're in the first semester, you're also trying to work, you know, and then get some other money as well. Okay, so it might be possible if you have the chance to work in the summer full-time, you are not extravagant, and you do some other side hustle. Again, it depends on how much your tuition is. If your tuition is $25,000, $30,000, you know, you have to kind of rethink twice. I've seen people that have done it. It's possible, but it is tedious. You basically work night and day. Okay, night and day. Okay, all right, so that is that for that. So in summary, can I pay my tuition as an international student? Yes. Is it easy? No. Do you have to put in a lot of work and effort to raise more money? Yes, very well. If you want to live an average life and minimum wage, you know, 20 hours per week, you do not get the job done. So if you love this video, do it to hit the subscribe button and the like, so that whenever new videos are released, you will be the first to get notified of my videos. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next video. Signing out.